Die Parkplätze gibt es nirgendwo und wenn sie irgendwo sind, dann bin ich mittlerweile schon wirklich aggressiv, weil ich weiß oder davon ausgehe, dass die falsch belegt sind. Christina setzt sich für.
So I think we're quite some people already. Welcome everybody. I'm happy that you made it to tonight's event. Some of you might have already filled out our little question. What are your expectations of today's event? If not, I kindly ask you to do so we can give some insights to the speakers. My name is Elian. I'm working for Impact Hub Zurich, and together with my colleague Ramona, I'm co-moderating this event. So,
hey everyone.
Ramona, do you want to give us some insights on the answers of tonight's expectations?
Yes, thank you, Elian. So I can see there are some answers coming in now. So we have here to learn about LinkedIn management, which format of posts and activity is better to engage and expand the audience is one answer. A better understanding of what headhunters and investors are screening for on LinkedIn. That might be also an interesting one. What else? Get some kick-ass secrets on how to use LinkedIn to make myself and my future business more visible and increase impact. Yeah, and then learn about LinkedIn page, about posts, improve the use of LinkedIn, tips and tricks, also on marketing strategies for LinkedIn. Yeah, I think that's
perfect.
So far what we have.
I'm sure we will get the answers to some of these questions tonight from our two great speakers. So I quickly want to run you through the agenda, maybe to give you a little background on the event. The event is actually an InnoSwiss alumni event, but since we found the topic very relevant for everybody, we opened it up. So some of you might be InnoSwiss alumni, some of you might not. So in the end, we will also tell you more about the offerings of InnoSwiss for the people who don't know it yet. So first we will have a keynote by Melanie Kovac. She is not only a founder, but also a business coach for aspiring entrepreneurs, a writer and a keynote speaker. And she will tell us about her experience with LinkedIn along her entrepreneurial journey. Then we will have the LinkedIn workshop by Florin. He's the author of Let's Link, as you probably all know. And he's responsible for sales in a tech startup and an Impact Hub Zurich member. Then I will tell you, or Ramona will tell you about the InnoSwiss offerings. There are different modules. And in the end, to improve this event, and also because we're very interested on how you found the event, we would like to get some feedback from you. And for this, you can already open this QR code. So if you have some insights during the event, what you like or what you dislike, you can directly fill it in and don't forget it afterwards. So then we dig in and we start with Melanie. Melanie, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Elia.
So I will stop sharing my screen and you can share yours.
Cool. Can you share? Can you see my screen? Cool. So yeah, I want to share with you how I made LinkedIn work for me. So to speak, my path to 2,400 followers and sometimes up to 1,000 views of posts and more. So I'm Melanie. And before I do that, though, I myself and also hear a bit from you. Where are you currently sitting? Like, from where are you dialing in? I don't see any photos, or I see actually some photos, but it would be nice to hear a little bit where you're sitting tonight. The speech will be about like 10 minutes, and then we'll also have time for Q&A. So if you already have some questions, you can also already post them in the chat during the speech. Do I see the Oh, I see the chat here. Do we have Zurich? A lot of Zurich winter tour. Oh, France. Also Uster, Aarau, Basel. A lot of cities. Bern, Zofingen, nice. Alsheim, cool. I'm sitting here in my home office, also in Zurich, and very happy to share this with you. So let's see. Before we go into LinkedIn and my path there, who I am. So I'm Melanie Kovac and Zurich Kreisels. Cool. Yes, so I'm Melanie Kovac and I started a company called Master 21 about 4 years ago. And the company is about teaching business professionals the basics of coding so they can speak the same language and talk on eye level with software developers. And that's also when I started using LinkedIn really regularly. I already used it before, but we'll go into that later. And yeah, I scaled the company pretty quickly. We were a team of 5 in the 3rd year last year, and we reached about 1,100 people who wrote their first lines of code with us. I got asked to do a TEDx speech. I was named Forbes 30 under 30. I got featured in magazines. And yeah, it looked great on the outside. But here comes the but, it didn't feel great on the inside. And yeah, I kind of felt stuck about like the time around now, last year. I didn't really see a path forward. And yeah, I didn't really have this vision anymore for the company. And I was all like involved in managing the team and making sure salaries get paid and yeah, just focused on operations and managing. And I really craved to be more creative. And so that's why at the end of last year, I actually took the hard decision to pass Master 21 on and figure out what I wanted to do next. And so I had a lot of time, especially in the first 6 months of this year, to write and explore and figure out what I want to do next. And one of the things I already started is a podcast. And I actually studied in Winterthur, and I also am an InnoSwiss alumni. So, and if you want to find out more, of course, you see that on LinkedIn or on my website. So now I'm curious, I heard a little bit what your expectations are, but I'm also curious to hear from you in the chat right now. How do you want to use LinkedIn in the future? So maybe not how you're using it now, but what do you want to use it for in the future? Can you let me know in the chat? Personal branding, sales channel, promoting my company's products, finding a job, generate leads, promotion, C-level people for B2B business, acquire potential customer, build leads, sales, finding a job, promoting ideas. Okay, cool. So yeah, I can share with you how I use LinkedIn. So one thing I can definitely not share is how to get a job, because I haven't been looking for a job in, I don't know, some years. So that I cannot help you with, but I can share how I used it. And I saw some of you actually said you want to use it for sales. So I don't use LinkedIn for sales, at least not directly. So, and here is how I use LinkedIn. So I use LinkedIn to connect with people in my network. I use LinkedIn to share what I experience and share my learnings, and to start conversations and learn. And I will go into all of these 3 in a bit of detail during the presentation. And then afterwards you can ask questions. So let's start with the first one. Actually, that one is already before I started my own company. I started using that heavily, I think once I graduated and was working in a digital agency. And so I started using it mainly, like I was working in a digital agency as a client partner, and that meant I got to know a lot of interesting people who wanted to build web applications and apps. And and so every time I was about to meet somebody, I basically checked them out on LinkedIn beforehand and added them afterwards. And that's how basically my network started to grow. And I think, yeah, I already reached the 500 limit once you cannot see anymore how many contacts you have in that job. And yeah, I feel like LinkedIn is like the best business card. It's always up to date. It gives you a lot more information. And also, yeah, for the ones who are looking for a job, definitely like a good impression as a CV. And here, then I started my own company. And that's actually when I then started sharing more content. Before, I haven't really shared any content. And so that's, you see 4 years ago there on the screen. And that's basically one of my really, really first posts, or it's actually not even my post. It's a post by a friend of mine who I then reshared. And so what I did when I started my company is I exported all the emails from LinkedIn. And I then sorted through them and sent them all a personalized email to tell them, hey, that's what I'm doing, that's our mission, and that's what I want to do in the future. And I asked them to also help me share the news. So that's actually how I think he then shared it on LinkedIn. Yes, and then I heard about a really cool workshop at the Impact Hub. I'm also an Impact Hub member, and I participated in that workshop. And maybe you can see him. It's quite small, I don't know. So it's Florin. I think it's one of his first, or if not the first workshop he gave about the social selling. So the guy that will give you the workshop after my speech. And yeah, I really, really learned a lot. It's exactly more or less 3 years ago, and it changed how I started using LinkedIn afterwards. And so maybe you can see a few differences to the first post. I'll just share with you now. And so, yeah, of course, Florin, in the meantime, also wrote a book that I also happily read, and I hope if you need more information, you read it too. So there is a question about how you can export all the emails. Maybe we can answer that afterwards, or Florin knows right away. Yeah, so this brings me actually then after this workshop, I really got to the second point of how I can use LinkedIn to really share content. And for me, it's mainly what I experience and what I learn. And so here are a few of the first new posts. You can see they're 3 years ago. And I don't know, maybe you can also spot some differences. So the ones who can spot differences, can you write in the chat what is different to the first post? What are the few of the fundamental changes that you can see in these posts? Tag people, yes, definitely. And actually the post on the right is at the Impact Hub at the Loft Corner, where I believe Elian and Florin are sitting right now. And the one on the left is in the Viaduct, for the ones who know this location. A lot of people, team is in focus, multiple images, feature others. Yes, yeah, not your own brand. Yeah, exactly. So what you can see, like you all got it. And one more difference is, even though you didn't see that on the first post, but initially I started sharing from my company's page. And what I then changed is really sharing from my personal profile. And yes, I had photos and selfies and I tagged people mainly to thank them for their contribution in an event or something like that. And maybe from the impression, for me, it was kind of a little bit, let me use LinkedIn in a way I used to use Facebook. It was more of like a social way. Not like you've seen also before, like a lot of people share articles or basically facts and figures, and this is like very much social. So I started sharing more stuff like this, tagging a lot of people. These were also 3 years ago still. Very much just seeing myself basically as like the brand ambassador of this company and sharing with my network what we were up to and the events we're doing, and also announcing. These were basically after event posts. And so for me, this is really a thing, like Master 21 and me, we've been featured in magazines, but even before that, I felt kind of like, hey, I don't need to wait until some publisher thinks like my story or the story of the company and our team and the people, what we're doing is worthy. I can just publish and share the story as I see it and as I experience it. And that is also what I would encourage you to do and to be in like this mindset. And then this is 1 year ago, and now you can see, or I hope you can see, I don't know whether you can see, can you see now? Now you can see the amount of views below. LinkedIn added this as a new feature, I think about a year ago. So I actually have never analyzed my posts up until this speech. And so now I started seeing how many views certain posts got, but before that I actually never analyzed it. And so now you can see how many views a post gets. And yeah, I think it's quite interesting to see its reactions, comments, and views on the bottom. And then results started to come in the sense of like, I think to Florian this also happened, but whenever like I met people and they asked me, hey, like Melanie, what's going on? What's up? I told them, yeah, we just had this event, or this program is coming up, or this workshop. And often, very, very often, the reaction was like, oh yeah, I've seen this on your LinkedIn already. And yeah, I was very impressed, and I didn't expect that because I kind of, yeah, you see the number of people that maybe comment, but I wasn't so conscious of the reach of how many people actually see it. So it's usually only a fraction of people who clap or comment, but a lot wider area of people who then also see it but don't react to it. And actually what I thought was interesting is it's definitely not all about promoting your business, even though that might be your intention. I think it's the wrong intention. I think people can sense the intention. And what's interesting is one of the posts like on the left is basically a friend of mine works at Ricola, and she sent me this package of Ricolas. And all I did was post it and thank her for it. It was nothing about me, the company, or like my brand or whatever. And it got like 4,000 views. And yeah, I feel like it's important to not always have content about yourself and your company, but in general, like thanking people, highlighting others, giving shout outs. And then also the post on the right is actually, I think, my most viewed posts throughout the last 2 years. So this has been at the Swiss Economic Forum, where I'm on a judge of the Swiss Economic Award. And I haven't mentioned anything about my company or myself. I just said like, it was a really cool event. I met all these great people. That's what I learned. There were some really cool speeches. And so basically it was a way of me to share that. And yeah, I didn't realize until I analyzed the post for this speech that this was the most successful one. But this is, I think it's a good reminder to not always feel like it needs to be about your business. And then the second point is it's also not all about the views, even though we now speak about the reach and so many people seen it. I think, so this is a post that I posted recently, I think about 2 weeks ago. And I was really wondering these days, like, have people ever thought about creating an online course? Because a lot of people have a lot of expertise. And so one of the people I thought would be interesting to have an online course from is Florin. So I mentioned Florin and I mentioned other people. And then I added the questions like, what are your thoughts? Have you thought about this? From who would you like to learn in an online course? And so this is not even the most up-to-date screenshot, but it generated a lot of comments because people kept mentioning other people. And this was not even like my original intention, but it kind of just went this way. And I think this is even more valuable than the amount of views, but like really, yeah, what kind of people comment and what kind of comments, and it allows you to start conversations. Which actually brings me to my third and last point, how I use LinkedIn. It's to start conversations and learn. So for me, I'm currently in a phase of doing customer research or market research to also see like what I offer next. And one of the things that I posted also about like a month ago is the first workshop that I hosted. And like a good result is I only posted this there, and within like a day or so, it was sold out. And I didn't post it on LinkedIn. Yeah, and the really good thing is also like I didn't have all of the people's emails, so I couldn't have reached them otherwise. So I think this is a really nice side effect. And then the other thing to start, or actually I know what I wanted to say is that about starting conversations. So the people, I did this already in spring and also only posted it on LinkedIn and got like, I don't know, 15 applications or so. And with all the ones that applied, I had a call to figure out their needs and their goals. And for me, it was a really great way to start conversations and do customer research, basically. And same thing also with this. This is now an article and not a post. And yeah, it just started conversations. Like people started writing me direct messages, and it doesn't have so much reach, but I think really nice conversations started because of that. And so what I want to say as a like fazit, as a takeaway for me, LinkedIn really helps me to find people who are interested in topics that I am passionate about. And so to sum up how I use LinkedIn, so I don't use it as a job platform. I've never used it to find investors. So that was one expectation. So maybe Florin can say more about that, or somebody else. I started using it as a business card. I actually don't have any business card. So I just add people on LinkedIn, as a database to look up information, as a phone book where I add contacts. I know I should have a CRM, but currently I don't. So this is it. As a chat function, as a publishing platform, and as a landing page to share my offer, my message, my story, my mission. Yeah. And now the question is, are you ready to connect with people in your network, to share what you experience and learn, and to start conversations and learn? Because I feel like it's really about the mindset mainly. And then of course you can learn all the tactics and the strategies, how often you post. But to be honest, I really never had like an exact strategy, how often I'd post or anything. Yeah. And so I believe whether you're ready, you need to ask yourself these questions. So what is it that you like doing? So for me, it's really these three things that I mentioned, right? Like I want to connect with people, I want to share what I learn, and I want to start conversations. And so maybe for you, it's something different, but I think that's where it starts. Like, what's your intention? And then how can a tool of LinkedIn help you to do that? And then I think there was also a question in your expectations about visibility. And so there it's really like, are you also ready to show yourself and really your authentic self? And then maybe it's a question like, what do I want to post? And so a good way to start is, I feel like, what's your mission? What are topics you're passionate about? Maybe what are questions? Like lately, I also posted a question about, can you bootstrap a platform like without finding investors? And I got a lot of comments as well. So yes, that's where I feel like is a good place to start. And I think now we're ready for Q&A. So where I'm at now is I encourage entrepreneurs to build a business that works for them by creating an offer that excites them and sells. And so if you want to talk about that or LinkedIn or anything that resonated with you, like just reach out. My email is there, obviously on LinkedIn is a good place to start as well. So regarding LinkedIn, I saw one question, is LinkedIn Premium worth it? So I have to admit, I still have the free version. I tried Premium for like the 3 month or so, but I always switch back. So probably Florian has a different opinion there. But in regards to LinkedIn, the free version, if you have a free version and want to message me, a good way is to send me a contact request and add a personalized message. So for me, I had this rule of not accepting any contact requests from people that I haven't spoken to before for a long time. And then I started giving keynote speeches and people wanted to connect. And I was like, damn it, somehow I want to have them see the content I post. But on the other hand, I don't want to just have everybody in my network kind of invite them to my party or whatever, how you want to see your network. And so I switched my main button to follow instead of connect or add to network. And yeah, of course, now I would invite you to connect and send me a contact request, but just add a personalized note there so that I know where you know me from. Yes, and if you want the slides, I'm happy to share them. Just drop me an email. And then I think we can open for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Melanie. This was really interesting, your insights on LinkedIn. For the Q&A, we will actually try that people unmute themselves, then we see some faces as well. If we realize that this doesn't work because too many people have questions and unmute themselves at the same time, we switch the chat where are already some questions, as I've seen. And also to make this more interactive, later on in Florian's part, we will need some volunteers who are willing to show their LinkedIn profiles. So if you're interested to be one of these volunteers, you will also need to speak up then later in the presentation. Send your LinkedIn profile privately in the chat to me or to Ramona, not in the big chat, but in the private chat. You can choose who you want to send your message to. And so with this, I will open up the Q&A.
So hey. I see the first, oh, okay. I already have a live Q&A. That's great. Cool.
I have a small question. And basically we're looking for a customer that is a company to do B2B, and which would be interested to test our product on a long-term relationship. So how do I text the people like the CTO, CEO, these kind of people? Because if you just send the email to the info @ nobody will reply. But I made some progress by sometimes trying to figure out the email address of the company, then send out an email to them that already worked, and I got responses. So it works, but I would like to improve the situation.
Yes, good question. I have to admit, I've never been in that situation. So I've never sent out messages via LinkedIn. So I tend to get a lot of messages these days that sound salesy or spammy. But I feel like as long as you are human and not like too salesy, and it's about starting a relationship and the message is phrased in that way, that sparks interest and is more about them and their needs and not about your product, you know, maybe phrased more as of you want to understand what their challenges are, whatever, you're looking for insights because you're building this product. I feel like I'm a lot more likely to answer than when it's directly like, hey, we want to sell something. And maybe it's also a way to reach out to your network that you already have and have them connect you with actually B2B people who could be interested to do a pilot with you. That would be my answer. And I don't know, yeah, maybe Florian has something to add, or we can go to the next question. Did this help, Björn?
Yes, it did, but it did a lot. But the second question, well, basically the same is, how do I connect to these people? Because, well, do I need LinkedIn Premium for this? Because my LinkedIn does not allow me to.
Yeah, I think for InMail, you need LinkedIn Premium. If you want to send messages to people who are not in your network, you need LinkedIn Premium.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for that aspect, it's probably worth to have the Sales Navigator. It's one of the premium, but that I think Florian knows better because he's actually in B2B sales. So maybe the two of you can exchange more about that later.
Thank you.
More questions? Okay, Florian is answering in the chat.
How much time do you spend daily on LinkedIn?
Oh, thank you, Rafael. Yeah, I was just going to answer that. I saw you already posted in the chat. I don't go to LinkedIn daily. Maybe twice a week, about, I don't know, 15 minutes. Not too much, to be honest. So these days, I have to admit, I don't really scroll through my LinkedIn and consume content. I rather have an idea about something and I post it, and then I go back and check whether somebody like commented on it. And I do make an effort of not just adding people to my network, but like commenting back pretty quickly when they comment, because I feel like it's just like it's a question in the room, and if I don't answer it, it's yeah, I want to show appreciation. And also when I see a post of somebody in my network that interests me and I like what they do, I make an effort also to comment on their post. So that's a bit what I do on a regular basis and what I try to make an effort on. But I have to say, I don't have notifications on my phone. So somebody can comment, but I don't see it right away. So yeah, I don't want to, I know it can get addictive, these social media, not just LinkedIn. So I try to minimize it and find a balance. I don't know, did this answer your question, Rafael?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Any other questions?
Yes, if I may, I have a question as well. So thanks a lot for your inputs, Melanie. You mentioned, amongst other things, that you chose to use your private profile more often than your company profile. As a matter of fact, I just created my company profile like 3 weeks ago, and now I'm wondering, do I even need it? And if so, what should I use it for?
Yeah, that's a really good question. How big is your company?
What do you mean?
How many employees?
10.
10. Yeah, I think Florian's rule that I actually quite like is up until you're at least 20 people in your company, you're kind of brand ambassador or the main salesperson as the founder, and it's more effective to just use your personal profile. So I didn't really use the company profile anymore. Also because I noted when I post on a company profile and I then share it with my personal one, it gets less reach than when I post directly from my personal profile. And so, yeah,
I saw that as well. And that's why it was a huge hassle to get people to like the company page. And maybe I shouldn't even do that, right? I can just forget about it.
Yeah, my opinion, I mean, in general, not just with LinkedIn, is like 80-20, right? Like which 20% of your input gets you 80% of your results, the Pareto principle, and for this it's totally, for me, like posting on the personal profile.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Florin, if you have a different opinion, just unmute yourself and contradict me. I'm fine.
You're doing great, Melanie.
Any other questions?
Yes, Melanie. I
Hi,
was
David.
wondering, you mentioned that at some point you had to shift from only accepting people to your LinkedIn profile that you know to sort of letting people follow you, and because you were having more keynote speeches and so on and so forth. And I was wondering, once the numbers of your followers started rising, how did you manage to filter the people who are crucial for networking to make your business grow from the people that maybe like to comment a lot, but do not really have a say in the business field that you are acting in?
I'm not sure whether I understand your question correctly, but basically so far I've never had people comment any of my posts that I felt like I don't like their comments, or they're kind of spammy or whatever. And in the sense of contact requests, I only accept contact requests when I feel like it's an interesting profile. We have shared contacts. I'm basically interested in what they do, and it's not like nothing against software developers in India or whatever, but yeah, if they have zero common connections, I don't know them, and it's basically, I don't accept the request. But when I see like they have, I don't know, 30 common contacts and they do something I'm interested in, and so then I let them join my network, and I basically join their network. And otherwise, whoever wants can just follow me. That's up for everyone. Did this answer your question, David?
Yes, thank you.
Are you working out?
What? No, it's just a treadmill, that's all.
Nice. Like that. Combining learning and movement. It's a good one.
So thank you for all your questions. Unfortunately, we already have to move on to the next point, but if you have some questions left, I'm sure you can contact Melanie, and she will give you answers. Thank you for all your interest. So
thank you.
We got some feedback on who would be willing to show their profiles. Don't be shy. Also, people who might not be that experienced on LinkedIn, this would also be interesting for us to have some comparison. So you can still send me your LinkedIn profiles to have a live analysis of it later. So let me know. And we start with Florin now.
Kann man sich jetzt schon Unterschied?
So, great. Can you see the slides I'm showing?
Am Anfang waren sie echt, yeah.
I think so. And I think someone is on mute. Maybe Elion, you can take care of that. Great. So thank you very much for the invite for today's workshop. Basically, we're almost at the end because Melanie did such a great job, and she literally told you everything that's key about LinkedIn. And so if you guys don't know what to do, just look at Melanie's profile, and whatever she's doing a great job. And I think you can just sort of follow and lead, or follow her example and follow her lead. I heard a few things which you guys had mentioned at the very beginning. Kick-ass secrets was one thing you mentioned, and you mentioned tips and tricks. And I'm sorry to disappoint you, but there are simply no kick-ass secrets. It's just a bit of common sense, a lot of discipline, and a bit of work. And once you understand how LinkedIn works, it's a very simple and straightforward tool to use. If you think there's kick-ass secrets, then I'm sorry to say there are no secrets. And the first thing before we kick it off is I'm going to ask Elion. We have 3 questions which we prepared, which we'll come back to later, to quickly pose 3 questions. So Eliane, she's sitting in the same room. I'm now looking at her. Can you post question 1? Okay, so the first question I'm asking of you, have you guys ever received a message on LinkedIn from someone you didn't know? Just answer with yes or no, please. Okay. Give it a few seconds. Then we'll take the, okay. So we're going to come back to that later. And can we do the second question, please? How many of those emails which you guys had received were useful? None, some, most, or all? Something I'm looking forward to answer. Give it a few seconds. Okay, great. And then let's look at the third question as well. Have you ever met someone first on LinkedIn before meeting them personally? So do you ever sort of, get a LinkedIn contact, which you follow up with later in person or face-to-face? If you could give me the answer to that as well. Great, we'll leave you a few seconds and then we'll move on. Perfect. So I've got the all clear. Can you see the slides again, Eliane? Great. All right, perfect. So first of all, I'm super happy to see so many of you. I thought this was going to be a workshop with about 20 people. Now I see 109 which are online. So I'm super stoked. Excited to see that so many people have decided to learn a little bit about LinkedIn. Me personally, I'm Florine. I'm a member of the Impact Hub. I'm now on a second venture, a second startup. I run sales. I run B2B sales in our startup. I used to be a software engineer. I came from a large company. So I had to learn how to do sales and I had to learn how to do LinkedIn. That's kind of where I'm coming from. And I'm excited to see so many people who are excited to learn about entrepreneurship and what it takes to use an entrepreneurial mindset to work with LinkedIn. And interesting enough, one of the reasons when I discovered LinkedIn is very similar to what Melanie told us today. And it's the exact same anecdote. I mean, I know it's a horrible joke here, but I thought it was funny at least. It really happened. I was telling a friend of mine an anecdote. I told him a story about something which I had learned, which I had seen on LinkedIn, and I had posted on it. And the guy replies to me, yeah, I know, I saw it on LinkedIn, which is the exact same thing Melanie told us just a few minutes before. And this is a key thing. That's when I realized this LinkedIn stuff seems to work, because if people actually remember what they saw on LinkedIn once I talked to them, obviously that has some kind of effect. And that's kind of the first thing that got me hooked on LinkedIn, which I thought, all right, I think I can do something with this. The second thing, which is super key, we've seen quite a few people of you talking about leads, talking about sales, about closing clients. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to grow your sales skills. And most of you have a great university background or a great education. You might be an engineer, you might be consulting, finance expert, I don't know what, but most of you don't have a sales background in most cases. Sales typically isn't taught in the university level. It's something which you sort of acquire on the go. And what I had to learn is that you're actually always selling to some extent. That's why there's a shameless plug with the book on my background, obviously, but you're always selling. And you're not just selling your product or your service, you're also selling your company. Because if you're looking for investment, you need to make sure that somebody is willing to invest in your company, and that means they're actually buying a stake in your company. So, you need to get your mindset around the sales topic. And Melanie alluded to it at the beginning, as the company is small, as one of the founder or a member of the board, it's your job. You are the ambassador of your firm. You are the ambassador of your services. So it's key that you actually do it. So Melanie has already covered a few quite advanced topics on what kind of content works. And my goal today is to make sure that you guys get the basics right. because you can't run before you can walk. We're going to look at two things. We're going to look at great profiles to make sure you guys have a great profile. And secondly, we're going to look at examples of social selling, what social selling is. And we're going to close it out with a little bit of Q&A. Now, this is going to be tricky because it's supposed to be somewhat interactive. So I'm going to jump to an example. So I have to stop the slides and I have to share my browser. All right, can you see my browser, Elian? Great, and we're going to jump right in. So this is a real profile, which I'm going to show you here. Can you see this bodybuilding workout profile, Elian? All right, great. So this is a bit weird. Let's be frank here. This is a bit weird. This is an actual profile on LinkedIn, and I don't know the person. I don't know who opened it. But it's a great profile to learn what is important in a LinkedIn profile and what isn't. So if you kind of look at that profile for a second, a few things will start to pop up. If you notice anything, just type it into the chat and we can have a quick look. What do you guys recognize about this profile? All right, I'm seeing some good things here. Yes, there's no face. I have no idea who that person is. Very unpersonal. There's no background picture. There's no name. I'm pretty sure the gentleman's name isn't Bodybuilding Workout, to be quite frank. Anything else? If you look here, he doesn't have very many followers or contacts. Probably a fake profile with like 5. We're not really clear. No updates. Very good. Exactly. Seems kind of deadish, huh? Not much happening. He seems to be strong. I agree. And the funny thing is, you're actually alluding at something. There is something which this person is actually doing a pretty good job. If I were interested in bodybuilding or looking to get a bodybuilding workout, this profile, at least there's some sort of a competence in bodybuilding, which this profile seems to have. So, long story short, quite a few things wrong, which could be better. Now, we're going to jump to one which I at least believe is slightly better. And we're going to quickly look at a few things here. So you've already mentioned a few of them. First of all, you want to have a decent profile picture. Super simple. An interesting stat is if 60% of the people think your picture is okay, you're doing pretty good, because sometimes you get very weird feedback about these type of pictures. The second thing, you see it here, the background picture. If you don't know where to start, you can start with the logo of your company, or you can start with something which is unique to you. The key thing on LinkedIn is, and some of you guys have already been doing that, is you want to have a tagline. And the tagline isn't really what your position is, that you're a founder or you're the CEO of some company. The tagline describes what you're doing. So the goal here is that potential clients of yours understand what you're doing. Now, some of my friends have no idea what this means in my case, but that doesn't matter. It needs to resonate with clients. That's one of the key things. And the other two things here on the high level, which are key, you have this sort of an information box which you can use. Don't write that you went to primary school, somewhere in Hintertupfingen, but write something about your service, write something about your product which you're offering, because if a potential client is already looking at your profile, you want to sort of hook them on whatever you're offering. And lastly, this changes all the time, but there's this featured or vorgestellt in German element. There's a few things which you can put on there, great post, maybe a fact sheet, or a keynote which you guys have held. Put something in there which is visually appealing and makes sense or explains something about your company. Those are the key things to keep in mind. And just to give you a chance, I summed this up in 10 points. So can you see 10 points listed on the screen, Elian? Great. So this is your chance to, run a quick screen grab or do a screenshot or something. If you don't have the time, and you don't want to invest, too much in understanding what to do on LinkedIn, just follow on these 10 steps and you'll be doing pretty well. Basically, this is sort of the poor version of Melanie in a nutshell. Instead of doing as great as she's doing, you'll be doing fine, at least, if you follow these 10 steps. Make sure you have a great profile. Make sure you interact and that you generate relevant content, and you will be good. It's as simple as that. So I'll give you a chance to quickly screen grab that. Now, and just to show you the effect of how good a profile is, this is a buddy of mine, Kilian, and he gave me permission to use it today. I let him know that there's going to be 20 people looking at it now, so now it's 100, but I asked for his permission to actually show you this. On the top, you see the after, and on the bottom, you see the before picture. Before is still the slightly older version of LinkedIn, but it goes to show how simple changes have a huge effect. It's the same picture, that's the same thing. Background picture, having one in there, and he's taking the name of the software which we're programming. And the good thing about that is simply it's a background picture which is certainly going to be unique to him and his company, because nobody else is going to have the name of his software as part of the background. And I think the best thing here to see is how important that tagline is. Basically, what his company is doing is making investor relation easier. And before, he was the CEO and the co-founder of a company called Interaction Partners. AG stands for limited. So while we salute him for founding a company, it's super hard to understand what he's actually doing. So if somebody's looking at his profile and they don't understand what he's doing, he's already lost the chance of popping up on somebody's radar. And on the top, he's now doing broker independent roadshows, digitally leveraged, MiFID II compliant, which quite frankly, I have no idea what that means in detail, but he explained it to me. It means they use software that's digitally leveraged to run broker independent roadshows, which means bringing investors and large companies together without having a broker present. And the reason for that is that MiFID II is a regulation in the EU which says that this is the way it needs to be done. So anybody in this industry exactly understands what he's offering. And so with just one simple sentence, he's actually bound to pop up on people's radar and clients or potential clients now see, oh, this might be interesting. Why not look at his profile a bit more and try to understand what he's doing? That's a simple example about how a change and following up with these 10 points can help you. Now, we're trying to do this live. I've received a few volunteers. So let's jump to the browser again. And I have somebody here called Alexandra Sadowska. Can you say hi, Alexandra?
Hello.
Hi, Alexandra. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm actually surprised for being selected.
Okay, I just got a message here. Are you okay if you have a quick chat about your profile?
Sure. I'm looking forward to being butchered by you.
Okay, no, don't worry. Can you give me a sentence or two? What does your company do, or your venture? What are you planning on doing?
So currently I'm working at ETH, and we are not a company.
Okay.
Maybe someday we will transition to industry. But right now we are working on low-cost ventilator for developing countries.
Okay, great. So, I'm not in the field, I'm not in medtech, but I get low-cost ventilators for developing countries. And now, you have an impressive academic record, because it says here you're a PhD from ETH or at ETH, and you're doing innovation in medtech. And I see something about brief ventilator for LMIC. Now, if your potential clients or partners in the medicinal industry understand what that is, that's great. But personally, from a pure sales perspective, it might be more interesting to say, we're working on low-cost ventilators for developing countries. A super simple sentence, but anybody looking at your profile will automatically understand what it is. And the chance of something happening, somebody reaching out to you, connecting, is going to be much bigger. I think that's sort of the key thing I see here. And the second thing, obviously, you don't have a background picture.
No.
So I have no...
Yes, I always have difficulties deciding what should I put as my background picture. I mean, I like your idea. It's maybe somehow work related and it shows some action with a device.
Why not exactly? Why not take a picture from the lab of your machine or your breathing apparatus or your team working on the breathing apparatus as a background?
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay, so we'll stop it there. Thank you very much, Alexander, for participating.
Thank you very much for your feedback.
You're very welcome. And we're just going to try the next person, Björn Jos. Give me a second here. Let's see, Björn Jos. Hello, Björn. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. I actually have started using LinkedIn recently, but I'm just about updating my profile.
Okay. Are you selling? So I see something about compact home fitness machines with data and videos. Are you selling to companies or are you selling to people interested in workouts?
Well, basically, the end goal is to sell directly to the customers, which will be, individuals. But we need to run trials and we need some partner companies. So my girlfriend is to look for partner companies, so B2B.
Okay. Personally, I have much better success with B2B on LinkedIn. I get tons of email of people trying to sell me all kinds of stuff. And, I find it hard to believe, but I've actually gotten emails trying to peddle hemorrhoid cream. I have no idea why somebody would try to sell that on LinkedIn, but apparently, people try that. So, I'm not sure from the message whether you're going to B2B or B2C. I like that you're trying to make it a bit more clear. There's probably some sales challenges. Is real-time data something people are interested in or not? I kind of like this. I think if the message is the one you're trying to send, you're doing okay. I kind of like this background here. And the other thing here at the very bottom, which I would change, is two things. Your information or sort of a short description of you. I think it's a bit esoteric. Let me put it that way. Trust, I trust. Up to you, but maybe I, explain a bit more about the business or the solution you're working on, or what makes it special, or why you've decided to start it. And here in the featured, pictures. I mean, if you're developing a machine for fitness and videos and whatnot, maybe you put something like that in there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for participating, and we'll take one more, which I was sent here. Thank you, Björn. We're going to look at Lucas Emanuel Roder.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Lucas. How are you?
Hello, Florin. I'm very well, thanks.
Great. All right. So tell me in a second or in a few sentences, what are you about? What are you working on?
So currently, I'm working at DTH in a future startup. Although I will most probably will leave this project. But yeah, we're building up a startup around this novel material you see in my background picture. Yep. It's a novel gold material.
Okay. Now, I have no idea what novel gold is, but let's think about this for a second. I really like your background picture, this light gold. If I get you correctly, what you're trying to tell me, you have something as good as gold, but not as heavy. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so even though I have no idea about advanced materials, you managed to sort of pique my curiosity. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you'd have to make the call, because I'm probably not going to be your client. I'm not quite sure who would buy it, but if I were your client, you'd be doing a good job. The key thing here in your sentence is really you are describing what you are. You're not really describing what you're offering to a potential client. Now, if you're in the research, I think that's okay because you're not really selling anything. If you are founding a startup and you're looking for companies to work with, there may be a sentence, making your rings lighter or making tooth fillings with light gold or whatever you're actually going to be selling might be a bit of a better way of doing it.
Nice.
The info, kind of like the same thing. I like the next sentence, we are working on novel gold material with which up to 85% conventional gold can be saved. Start with something like that. Start with your value proposition, with what you're offering to the client, because if they look at your profile, it's going to make a lot of sense. And secondly, we don't have the featured, the vorgestellt here either. You're saying gold, you have great pictures, I'm sure. I don't know how light your gold is. Maybe it floats in water. Maybe there's a few interesting pictures or videos you could show, which showcases your light gold.
Nice, thanks. So giving a bit more to see and feel, and so it's really the focus about what the startup is, right? And not really about me.
Exactly. Focus a bit on the focus is on you as a person, obviously, but what is the company you're founding or working with trying to do?
Perfect.
Happy to extend the conversation maybe a little bit later or in a one-to-one setting, but those are sort of the basic things. All right. Thank you very much, Lukas.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the survey. So we're gonna see how that works. Elion, is it possible to quickly give us the answer from the survey? Okay. I can see it. All right. So the question was very simple. Have you ever received a message on LinkedIn from someone you didn't know? And 9 out of 10 say yes. There was a question about LinkedIn email before. Pretty simple answer is, virtually everybody has received an email. Great. Can you give me the second answer, please? Okay. So, you guys asked about InMail. A third tells me that the messages which are received on LinkedIn are not useful at all, none. 60% find some useful, and all or most is like 6%. I mean, those of you who have like a mathematical background can run the percentages and figure out how significant this is. But long story short, messages on LinkedIn are mostly overrated. Most people don't care too much about those. And we had a third question, I believe. So have you ever met someone first on LinkedIn before meeting them personally? And, very simple question, half of you have. So half of you have met somebody on LinkedIn and then follow up on personally. All right, great. Thank you very much for sharing that, Elion. Now, let me jump. Oops, that was the survey. Great. Now, social selling tends to be a term which is used to talk about what people do on LinkedIn all day. And I'll try to break it down into 3 simple things which you need to keep in mind. And it's going to be much simpler than you think. So I'm not going to ask who knows this logo, but I see some smiles here. One of the key things to keep in mind on social selling, it's all about developing and maintaining relationships. I mean, the examples we gave you at the beginning is a perfect example of that, because people who you don't have contact with that much, if they follow you on LinkedIn and they see what you're doing, they will feel connected to you. Now, some people don't believe in this. Fine. It depends slightly on where you're coming from, depends on what industry you're in, but in most industries which have a higher level of digitization, this is the way to go. And the reason I'm using Tinder here as an example is, if people enter short-term relationships, I guess, using Tinder, and there's even examples of people getting married and having children and living happily ever after, etc. If that is possible in a truly digital fashion, then certainly it's going to be possible that you meet and maintain business relationships using a digital channel. And that's one of the things which you need to keep in mind for LinkedIn. It's a way of maintaining your network. The second thing, which Melanie actually showed very nicely, is it's all about grabbing somebody's attention. If you have a great experience, or you have an anecdote to share, or you have a question, people react to content. And it's kind of your job to figure out what content works. Melanie gave you some great examples. Typically, it's what your network is interested in. It's as simple as that. All the super salesy stuff, we have a great product, we have a new service, doesn't resonate as much. What resonates much more is personal stories, things which you have experienced, and anything which is sort of a you tell somebody over a conversation at a dinner table. If that's an anecdote or an experience you have and you share it, people will react to that much more than if you rattle off the latest fact sheet of your great product. And the third thing, which is very key, is the notion of, you know, second or third degree connections. So, you know, right here in this room, I see Elion. Telling her a story is going to be super simple because she's here to listen. But, you know, there's so many people of you who are outside this room, and if I can use Elion to get to you, then, you know, you're actually using the power of your network. And the idea here is super simple. If your network reacts to your content, then chances are higher that people outside of your network, but in their network, is going to react. And that's another key thing in social selling, to keep that in mind, that you want to engage your network's network. Now, we're going to jump back and look at quick 3 examples of this. Let's back to the browser. Elion, are we back on the browser? Great. All right. Now I'm going to show you an example here. This is a super simple example. It was a closing ceremony of the Kickstart event. And it was me. I was announcing 2 of the partnerships which we had entered with our startup. And you know, the photo is super simple. It's me, a crooked smile, and it's my setup. You can see like a Zoom or Teams application, and you can see a big light. So long story short, all I did is post a super simple picture of me, which was getting ready to announce partnerships. And as Melanie was showing you, you know, it took me like 30 seconds to set that up. 40 likes, 2,500 views. So it's a super simple thing because people are interested to see what we're doing. They like to understand that, you know, our company's moving forward, that we're winning clients. So that's a super simple thing to do. An example of stuff that doesn't work very well, I'm just going to share the next one. A friend of mine works at the economic research department at ETH, and they posted an open job. And, you know, I know her, and I said, sure, I'll share it. So what I'm doing here is I'm sharing a company page update, and pretty abysmal, 0 likes, and you can see 21 views. Now, you know, 21 views is I said before, is pretty abysmal. The point I'm trying to make here, this is not content which is engaging. It doesn't say anything about relationship, about me, or which I have in my network. It's just sharing a job ad, and naturally it doesn't really resonate at all. A typical example of the type of content which you see so much, but it doesn't really resonate. And another small example, sharing can work. This is about a week old. Super simple. We were pitching at a company together with 3 other startups, and over lunchtime, telling them what we do and show them what we're offering. And the guy who set up the meeting just posted a small screenshot and did a quick update. And all I did is basically, it's in German here, is, you know, what do you do as a startup during lunchtime? And of course, you're going to attend a pitch. You can always eat later. And long story short, you know, something as simple as that, 1,500 views, 17 likes. But that's not everything. you might feel, that might be not that much. But the interesting thing is, if we start looking at the likes, and if we start scrolling down, we actually generated likes outside of my network. And this is interesting, because now you have people you don't know, or you tend not to know, and they start liking your stuff. And this is a very interesting metric to kind of look at. Long story short, if you get people outside of your network to interact with the content, you're doing something right. All right. Those were some super simple examples. Now let's jump back here. Exactly. Melanie actually alluded to it. I think your job is super simple. You got to run experiments. And the biggest fear I always hear is, oh, what if I post something which people won't like or find strange? There's nothing to worry about, because people just would forgotten about something which isn't interesting. So, you know, as long as you're staying to usual rules of proper human interaction and behavior, there's nothing to fear about. But your key job is to figure out what content works, because if you have great content and your network starts interacting with it, you will actually start to get people interacting and looking at your content, which are potential clients. And once they start interacting with you, then it's a good time to start connecting to them or following up offline with an email or a cold call. So what I strongly advise against is just sort of sending around emails to, you know, everybody and their dog, hoping to get a connection. I think the best way to do it is to engage them through great content. And once they start engaging or start looking at your profile, then it's a great time to follow up. And you'll need to figure out in your industry where the right thing is to follow up on LinkedIn or follow up offline. Because the great thing is, if they've already seen you once or twice on LinkedIn and you follow up with them offline, chances are they'll have like a confirmation bias. They'll react to you and, oh yeah, I remember, oh yeah, this is interesting, let's have a chat. So that can help to build your sales pipeline and build your brand. Good. And since we spoke a little bit about sales, I would like to highly recommend the Versus Verlag, which is a small publishing house in Zurich, and they have a great program. And one of the books in their program is obviously the one I wrote together with my friend. So with that, I'll leave you to it. Thank you very much for the interactive part. So I'm looking at you, Elion. Do we still have time for questions, or will we move on to the closing?
Yes, we can have 5 to 10 minutes for questions.
All right. So does anybody have a question, or should I just look at the chat here? Oh, there's an interesting one from Christa Herman. What about sharing links? I heard that LinkedIn doesn't promote your posts much. If you share external content, it's better to post them in a first comment. What's your take on this? My take on this is super simple. Don't believe anybody who tells you what exactly works on LinkedIn and what doesn't. And the reason for that is super simple. The only people who really know that are the programmers who develop the algorithms behind LinkedIn. And I'm pretty sure they won't share that information with you so readily. Try it out. It's as simple as that. Try it out. There's nothing you can lose. My personal experience is videos work the best. People like videos. Content seems to perform slightly better if it's hosted directly on LinkedIn than if it's external content being shared. But there's a caveat to that. The reason could be, let's say it's a newspaper article. Chances are you're not the only person sharing that newspaper article. So, you know, the question really is, in that experiment with external content, is it because it's external, or is it because it's something like a newspaper article, which many people are sharing? All right. And in case that didn't answer your question, just shout. Is there a voice question? Otherwise, I'll read another one here from the chat.
I could read my last question as well, if that's okay for you.
Sure, shoot.
Yeah, I have two projects. I have a long time project, which is not easy to get funded. And I recently started to work on another project that has better chances to get paying clients. How do I manage that tension? I have a common brand that covers both, but the products are very different. How do I cope with that?
Well, I'll be a bit of a jerk, but forget about the first project. I mean, if you're saying it's hard to get funded, obviously it's a tough sell. I wouldn't spend too much time on that. But let's say you'd had two projects which had the same chances. Let's make it a bit more challenging. Yeah. And the answer there is you need to focus on one. It's as simple as that, because otherwise your message is going to be super mixed. If one day you're selling ice cream and the next day you're selling cheese, to use a very simple example, are you the ice cream guy or are you the cheese guy? I mean, they both sort of have milk, as a common denominator, but it's super hard for people to understand. And sales sometimes is really about telling people the same thing over and over and over again, even though you might find it a bit boring and a bit repetitive. People need to have seen your content a few times to sort of start connecting the dots. So it doesn't hurt if you have a good message to sort of hammer it home. But to come back to your question, I would focus on one of the projects and focus on the one which is more B2B and more likely to be successful when you're getting more traction. That would be my answer to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Maybe we do another question. Okay. There's one, so I'll take one here from the chat. Christy is asking, what are the differences with Twitter versus LinkedIn in content posting and strategy for the two? Personally, Twitter, not convinced. Twitter ads are debatable how good they work. LinkedIn ads have, at least in B2B, have pretty good, they're expensive, but they seem to work. I think Twitter, at least in sort of at least in Switzerland, let's take to Switzerland first. In Switzerland, Twitter is important if you're in politics, it's important if you're in journalism. For sales, not convinced about the use of Twitter. Also, if you look at who spends their time where, typically people spend more time on LinkedIn than they do on Twitter. If you're like a keynote speaker, if you're like a one-man show or one-woman show, then maybe there is some value of Twitter, especially in sort of like more in the NGO political activism space. But sort of a classic B2B sales, I'm not convinced that Twitter makes sense. In terms of content posting, I would, if I would try it out. And if you see there's not much happening on Twitter or vice versa, I just stop investing the time. I think you'd be better off investing your time on the platform which your clients are on, which are generating interactions and which are getting your message out there, and drop the second one instead of sort of focusing your energy on both. I mean, you call it out, Melanie, before 80-20. Go there where something is happening and don't spread yourself out too thinly about too many platforms. Great. So thank you very much for all your questions. If there's any more, just chat to me or hit me up. And I'm going to be looking at you, Eliane, again, I guess, and I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Florin, for all your interesting insights. I loved how interactive we could make this, even though it's online. And actually, before we head to the last part, we want to create some content for LinkedIn. This is really difficult at online events because the possibility of picture is not that easy. So I ask all of you to turn your camera on and wave or make a thumbs up into the camera, and we make a screenshot. One more. Yes. Perfect. Thank you. So we come to the last point where we will hear something about the InnoSwiss offerings. And for this, I will hand over to my colleague, Ramona.
Thank you, Eliane. Yeah, as Eliane mentioned before, we have a lot of Startup Campus alumni in this call who participated already in trainings, but there are also some new people joining who maybe have not heard about this before. So I'm quickly going to introduce you the startup support that we offer from Startup Campus and that we do for InnoSwiss, for the Swiss Innovation Agency. So what we have to offer is basically 4 modules. Where the first module is more a sensitization event where you have the possibility to meet experienced and successful founders and ask them questions, hear about their way and how they proceed with their startup. So these events are open to all people. We have different dates available. If you're gonna check out the website, maybe Ilian can send it to the chat as well in the upcoming weeks. So if you're interested to hear more about Swiss startups, then I really highly recommend to join one of these events. And then I think, right, we have here some of the upcoming ones, for example, from Yokoi or also from female founders version. So there are quite a lot of dates available and online on the website. Thank you, Ilian. Then what might be more relevant for most of you if you already have a business or want to start a business is the business concept course, which is a semester course. 12 weeks, we teach you how to set up your business, how to create a business model, what are the relevant topics there from finance to IP to marketing, sales. So it covers a lot of aspects, and we have very experienced coaches who work with you and help you to develop your business case. And in the end there, we have a pitching session in front of investors where you have to get the chance to meet investors and get feedback from investors as well. You can already sign up for the next courses in the next semester. And then, yeah, thanks, Ilian. And then on top of that, we have 2 courses that are focused on impact startups or social startups who are working on topics like sustainability or any social related topic. And I think some of you who talked today, they are active in that area, which is maybe then a good course for you. The business creation course is the starter course for people who want to start a business in the area of social and impact entrepreneurship. So again, we teach you there, how does a social business model look like? What do you need to know? How do you raise funds, for example? Also topic of sales and marketing there as well. And the business growth course is more for already running and existing startups who have first customers, first revenues, and who are already on the market. And in this course, we help you to scale and to grow your business. If you have any questions about the courses, feel free to message me or contact me on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to help you out if you have questions or want to apply. And yeah, Ilian, you can go to the next slide. A last event that I would like to mention here is called so-called Pioneers and Legends event series that we do. And there we also have a next event coming up on the 25th of November. The topic is the future of work, and we have a very cool speaker there who shares his experience and his basically what he works in daily life. Yeah, so I really can recommend that. And also if you want to join this event, feel free to click on the website and sign up for this.
Thank you, Ramona. So coming back to the beginning, I ask you again to share your feedback on the event. You can scan the QR code with your phone and then fill out our little survey. We would love to hear if you liked or disliked it, and that we can improve it for the next time. And last but not least, as we heard today, social media is important. So do posts, tag us, tag Florin, tag Melanie, use hashtags. We are very happy to see your LinkedIn posts on the event. That would be great. So for now, I thank you all. Thank you, Florin, and thank you, Melanie, for your interesting insights. Thank you to all participants for your questions. It seemed that you were very interested in the topic and there were many interesting questions. So I love that, and I hope to see you next time at our events. Okay, so have a nice evening. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you.